Thank you all for joining us this evening, for taking a bit out of your Monday evening to join us to talk about the upcoming aquatic season. My name is Mike Sarnowski. I'm the Senior Director of Community Sports for Special Olympics Maryland. Joining me tonight is Neil Coffey, our Aquatics Venue Director, and Melissa Anger, our Regional Sports Director, who is also the staff lead for Aquatics. We recently went through a little bit of change in structure, and for each of our sports we now have a staff member who is the lead person for each sport. So we'll go through and share different portions of the session tonight. As I indicated, please do keep mute your phone, although if you do have questions or you do need to give input, you can just unmute it, and you can mute your phone either by the mute function on your phone or by pressing *6 to mute and unmute. And as is noted on the screen there, we are recording the session tonight so that we can post it on the web. You will get the slides. We'll send these out to you by tomorrow morning, and so you'll have these for your use as well. We'll cover some administrative information, entries and such in the events. Neil will cover some rules updates and reminders. We have some information on the qualifiers that we have available, deadlines and dates. We'll also touch on coaches certification, and then some question and answer. And then tacked onto the end, we do have copies of all the forms and such that you'll need for the season. So let's start off with the deadlines. The standard structure that we have for registration for our summer game sports is the same as it's been for quite some time. There's a training registration deadline, and then there's also a competition registration deadline. The training registration deadline, which is April 23rd, is the date by which you need to get all of your folks who are participating in your aquatics program registered in GMS. That's our games management software. And you should know who your GMS manager is for your county. They will assist you in making that happen. But that is the actual deadline. There's no buffer built in there. So you will likely need to have your information to your GMS person somewhat in advance of that date, and talk to that person now so that you can arrange that. Again, that's when you need to have all the folks who are participating in your program entered into the system as registered as training. You can certainly have additional folks join your program afterwards if you have capacity and if your program allows that, but anybody who joins or is registered after the April 23rd date will not be eligible to participate in summer games. The next line, the team rosters, this is a standard set of deadlines we're using for all the summer game sports. That next one really only applies to softball, so we'll skip right over it. Then on May 5th, that is the last day to submit any outstanding or missing forms for every athlete. Their medical needs to be on file by that date, and it has to be valid through the last day of summer games, which is June 7th. And again, needs to be at headquarters by that date. Also, any coach, partner, volunteer with your program needs to have their form in, their volunteer application in, again, valid through the 7th of June. And then finally, we'll talk about this a little more at the end. Hopefully people are aware that we are now enforcing the head coach, or the requirement that all coaches have coach certification for their sport, and we're applying that to all head coaches this year. We'll expand that later. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that's the deadline by which all your head coaches need to have have met that criteria for certification. Then on, excuse me?
What was that date again?
That is May the 4th.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And Jack, I think you're already taken care of, but any of your other folks would be great. Okay.
Well, I got to do the swimming yet. I've got to finish up the swimming.
Oh, okay. I knew that you had registered for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we have our competition registration deadline. That is May 18th. That's the date by which you need to have all of your folks registered in GMS with their events and their entry scores. And again, work with your GMS person for that. That's the date that it has to be into the system. There's not a buffer built into that. You will likely need to have that information to your GMS manager at least a few days, sometimes a week or more prior to that date. You need to talk to that person now so that you know what those days are. then, as we have done for the last several years at least, for athletics and aquatics, we give you another week to update your scores. That's the opportunity to submit an improved score based on a qualifier that may have happened the weekend after that deadline. There's one more weekend of competition. This year that works out to actually be Memorial Day weekend, so we're not sure how many folks will have competitions that day or that weekend, but we do give you that opportunity. And again, the opportunity here is strictly to submit improved scores for your athletes. It is not the opportunity to change events. It's not the opportunity to add anybody. It's strictly a date to give improved scores for your athletes or your relay teams in the case of aquatics and athletics as well. Okay? As a reminder, we're not going to walk through all the forms tonight. Those are at the addendum, but I did want to remind everyone, in case there's any question, that no athlete or volunteer can participate in any manner in a Special Olympics program without having a current and valid medical form, or in the case of a volunteer, a current and valid volunteer application and volunteer screening. There are no exceptions. There's no 2-week buffer or 2-week grace period to get stuff in. If they're getting into the pool, they have to have a valid medical on file. You are becoming personally liable if you don't do that, you're taking a huge risk on that, and Special Olympics can't tolerate that. So, just as an important reminder that is absolutely necessary. There are no exceptions whatsoever to that requirement. And in case anybody, I think most people know that I also, as a volunteer, continue to coach for Special Olympics. I have to apply that to my track athletes as well, and my soccer athletes during soccer season. So I know how challenging that can be, but it's absolutely a requirement. And then, just as noted, work with your volunteer leaders or the leaders in your area to get all their forms in, to get your information in, and such. If you don't know who the GMS manager is or who submits the medicals or the volunteer applications for your area, we have a secure submission process that's involved for that. You don't just mail them in or fax them in. It goes through a secure server since there's personal information on those forms. If you don't know who handles that for your county or for your area, talk to your area director now and find out who that person is. And then, in addition, once you know who that person is, contact them and work out whatever arrangements in terms of when he or she needs to get that information from you so that they can meet the deadlines that they have to adhere to. Again, the deadlines that are there are the actual deadlines. There is no buffer built into that. Neil, do you want to talk about the entries and number of events and such?
Sure, Mike. Thank you. One of the things we did a couple years ago was we realized that we wanted to expand the opportunities of the athletes, and again, this is not a change from last year, but we are allowing athletes to enter into up to 4 events. That's 3 individual events and 1 relay, or 2 individual events and 2 relays. And then the other piece that we want to make sure that everyone's aware of during the entry process is if there are special needs for an athlete, hearing impaired, visually impaired, physical limitations that impact the ability to perform a stroke in a certain way, we need to know of that information. We are familiar with the athletes, but please don't assume that we remember from year to year who can and can't do what, or who has what special needs. So as you enter that information to the games management and the GMS, please make sure that you put any special needs into the comment section for that particular athlete. Now, the other thing we want you to be mindful of is make sure that those special needs truly are special needs and are not just they're legitimate as they impact the athlete to, again, to perform the swim strokes, or special needs for start or access into and out of the pool. We see a lot of interesting comments, and we choose to ignore those that aren't legitimate in those criteria, and I don't want to create a situation where, we show up at summer games and someone says, oh, I put this comment in and, really didn't pertain to those items that I just mentioned. So, be mindful of that and also make sure that you report it, because one of the other things that we do is we look at those comments prior to the games as we're preparing the divisions and the lane assignments. So, giving them to us on the pool deck at summer games will not work for us. So just make sure we have that information as clear as possible beforehand. Thanks, Mike.
And Neil, you want to cover the events? We have the events on this slide and then the schedule on the next one.
Sure, that sounds great. So the events are listed on the next slide. Those have not changed. We do have some years where certain events have no registrants, and that should not be a deterrent just for you to enter athletes into the event just because there was no one in it. And the other piece is, if you have an athlete who wants to compete in a certain event, don't, I've heard this before, well, I don't want to be the only one, or I don't want to slow up the event. If you have someone who wants to swim a particular stroke and distance and it's a Special Olympics sanctioned event, don't hesitate to add that person into that event. We will make the time to have that event happen. And then the next item, Mike, is the events and run order. One of the things that the Aquatics Committee did after the games last year is we talked a lot about how our order of events were structured, how the schedule was structured, and how everything ties in from staging through competition to awards and around and around. And one of the things we kind of realized is that we wanted to change the way we structured the pieces. So what we've done is we've identified a Saturday morning session, a Saturday skills session, which will happen midday, a Saturday afternoon session, and then a Sunday session. And what we're going to do in the schedule, and this will happen closer to the summer games, is we will put start times for each of those sessions, so here's what time this session begins, and then as we get the registration information, we'll do our best to even get to, preset staging times for the divisions within those particular events. There's a couple motivating factors here. One is, an attempt to put some structure and time frame to what we're doing. Two was, we realized that we all struggle through staging for some of the shorter distance and the events that we're putting into the skills category. So we're trying to be mindful of any special situations or any special needs. And we felt by putting the skills, together, we could put our internal resources together in such a way that we can better manage those events during the time that it's set for. Some other pieces are, trying to be fair to the volunteers and swim officials on the pool deck. If they know here's when the sessions are and here's what they're going to be comprised of, they can set up their schedule for who's covering whom to take lunches and personal breaks. So we're trying to add that structure. That information is in front of you, and those are all of the events that we have offered in the past. If there are events that aren't listed on there, as I mentioned before, that are Special Olympics sanctioned events that we get registered for, we will modify this order as appropriate.
And Neil, just to clarify for folks, when you say modify this, you mean you would insert them in here somewhere, but an event that's listed here for, say, Saturday morning will, generally speaking, stay on Saturday morning, correct?
That's correct. That's correct, Mike. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay. And then we have some rules reminders.
Yes, Mike. One of the things that we've had a great partnership with Maryland Swimming over the past couple of years, and we've worked with them to not only assist us at summer games, but at the qualifiers. So that way, the standard of officiating is not so different between the two events. And, so we want to make sure that the proper stroke standards are known during training, leading up to the event, so that way, something that happens and is allowed and permitted during one of the qualifiers will be consistently judged and evaluated prior to coming to summer games. Because the last thing that we want to see and hear is, well, such and such is allowed to do this at X qualifier, and then we show up at summer games, and he or she is disqualified. So make sure that we're aware of that. Know that the standards for evaluating and officiating the summer games are done by the male swimming officials. So if you're looking at the qualifying level for officials to kind of turn a blind eye or let things go, it's really not doing a service to anyone involved here. Another thing, as far as relays go, one of the things we have changed, and again, this is something that we attempted to do last year, is understanding the difficulty of activating an alternate for a relay team, a week in advance when sometimes you just don't know and you don't want to disqualify the entire team. We will allow alternates from a relay team to be activated up to the time that team is called for staging. Now, we also have to be aware, though, that it's only someone who is actually registered as an alternate for that particular team, and it's not just, hey, I got an open spot, this person from my delegation, come on in and swim here, you swam this, in practice or something. So they have to be registered, they have to be listed on that team as an alternate. And we're also not, this isn't an invitation to say, well, I'm going to move this person from this team over to that team and move things around. If there's a spot on a particular, if there's a need on a particular team, it needs to be an alternate for that team that's being put in that place. Questions?
Yeah, actually, and just one other point, just because it comes up, excuse me, with sports and such and other areas here. A given athlete or a given partner may only race on one team within a given event. So you can't have someone who is racing, you're activating, using somebody as an alternate who is on another team and have them race with both teams. They're a single, the person who's listed as an alternate cannot be on another team already.
Thank you, Mike. I wouldn't have thought about that one, but you're right.
That came up last year, I believe.
Yeah, and just a point of clarification, nobody was trying to do anything nefarious. They just wanted to try to salvage their team, I don't doubt. But just want to be clear, you can only race once in an event. So, okay. And Neil, the flotation, assisted, unassisted.
Yes, thanks, Mike. One of the things that we feel that we're constantly struggling with is the difference between flotation assist and unassist. So we place this slide in here. Please use this as a resource. If there are any questions, because you think, okay, well, if I'm an assisted event, I can provide assistance via a flotation. That's not the case. Flotation is a predefined device, and that's listed here, that the athlete uses for completing the particular event. The flotation does not involve someone in the pool with the athlete for the event. That would be an assisted swim. And then you have the unassisted swims, which have no flotation device and have no assistance in the water. So just make sure that everyone is clear on that. And the individuals on this call tonight might be, but make sure that we do a good job of communicating that out, because it tends to be confusing once we get to summer games and people asking questions. Well, I was allowed to do this, or I thought I could do that. So make sure that we're very clear, because that's where some confusion tends to occur.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure. Thanks, Neil. Then qualifiers, Neil touched on some of this beforehand. But as a requirement, each athlete, in order to be eligible to go to or participate in summer games, needs to attend a minimum, and minimum is the key word there, of 2 sanctioned qualifiers. There is a, you should have certified officials or judges, and as Neil mentioned, we use Maryland Swimming. Again, it should emulate a true competition. That said, it does not mean that any qualifier has to be, or every qualifier has to be 5 hours long and involve athletes from 12 different areas. They can be all different sizes. They can be the equivalent of what we call an all-comers meet, which is still a formal competition, but it's the focus is entirely on the competition. There's sort of no frills associated with that. You could do an all-comers meet of that type within your practice period. In many cases, inviting, say, a team from a nearby county to come over and swim with your team. We will look in just a second at the qualifiers that we know of at this point. But again, do need to have all these items there, medical personnel on site. Ideally, we say 3 or more areas or counties, but that's somewhat flexible there. And to be sanctioned, it needs to be have a sanction form completed and submitted by your area director. We say at least 30 days in advance. There is a little bit of flexibility on that in some unique cases, but generally speaking, it should be that far in advance. That allows it to be advertised out to folks. If there's any equipment that needs to be borrowed, that's plenty of time to take care of that as well. And then if you fail to do that, it may nullify your status as a qualifier, counting towards that. But again, as I stated, it's a minimum of 2. We certainly hope folks are going to get their athletes in as many competitive experiences as possible. It's 2 over the course of a 8 to 10 week season, 2 competitions plus the potentially the state summer games over a 8 to 10 week season is not a whole lot of competition. Really stress and encourage you to be looking for additional opportunities. So that said, we currently have 9 qualifiers that we know of at this point in time. First one coming up April 12th, and so on down here. Not all of these are open to other counties. Not all of them are open. There's not necessarily an unlimited number for each. We will be sending out by the end of the week what we call our sports calendar that typically goes out to all area directors and area director support, and it's posted on the MySOMD, the coaches section of MySOMD. We'll be sending out an update to that that will have all the contact information for any of these qualifiers. And if we know at that point whether they are open or to what degree they're open and available to send additional folks to it. I guess a question I'll toss out to folks, is there anybody who is planning that we know at this point, even if you don't have a definite date on it yet, but is there anybody, are there any other qualifiers that are being planned right now that we can let folks know about? And if you have one, you can just unmute your phone and share it with us.
Yes, Mike. Go ahead. This is Stu Wolf from Carroll County.
Hey,
and
Stu.
we submitted a sanction request, I think, 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
We have one on May 2nd with just Frederick County.
May 2nd?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry that it didn't make it up here. We will certainly add it to the sports calendar. Where is that at, Stu?
At McDaniel College.
McDaniel. Wonderful. Okay.
I was just wondering, because do you guys usually say that it's been sanctioned? Give us a feedback?
If you submitted the form, yes, we should go through all that. We have a department meeting on our sports department tomorrow, and we'll review those processes again.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead with getting more information to Frederick's coach then.
Okay, wonderful. Then it sounded like somebody else had one as well?
Yeah, Jack.
Uh-huh.
We are working on having a competition at the Washington College pool where we train.
Oh, okay, great.
I've talked to Mike, to Jim Myrick about getting people from Lower Shore and his group from Easton. So it'd kind of be like an inter-club competition, but would that qualify as an all-comers type thing?
That would, yeah, that could be, the all-comers model. The only message with that is that it's a no-frills event. There's no ceremonies,
Right.
no awards, whatever. It's come in, but it's a fully competition-focused event with proper officials and so on down the line. So that would be great. I know we have the one that's in Easton down here on the 9th, but if do you have a date on this one yet?
Well, no, I was trying to coordinate with Jim. He gave me that date, and we'll meet with the Washington College people this week and try to come up with a date.
Okay, great. Well, we'll add that at that point. Okay. Anybody else who knows of any other qualifiers that we've got?
Hello, this is Margie Young from Montgomery County.
Hi, Margie.
We have one on May 16th.
Yep, we've got that on here at Stone Ridge School of Sacred Heart.
See it now? I see it now. I was going down to the dates, and then I seen you had May 9th.
Yeah, we have one out of order.
Okay, well, that's good. We've got Howard County coming and some people from Prince George, I believe, and that's about, so far, all we've had interest in.
Okay, well, great. Well, and again, I strongly encourage folks, talk to the programs next door. We can send out a list by the end of the week of at least all the contacts from last year, so you can connect with the aquatics programs in nearby counties, and you can do a little home and away series for folks. Again, the additional competition opportunities really makes a huge difference in how your athletes do, and it adds a lot of excitement to the season. So,
Marge, this is Steve Doherty from Cecil County.
Hi.
We'd love to attend this year.
Attend the Montgomery County one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, they usually come every year. We just hadn't heard from them. So, yeah, I'll write that down right now.
Okay, great. Okay. Then just briefly on this, we've sent a lot of stuff out over the last several months regarding head coach certification, but just wanted to touch on it here to make sure folks are aware. Special Olympics International and Special Olympics North America has long held, and I'm saying at least 25 years, has had a policy that all coaches need to be certified through Special Olympics in their particular sport. Special Olympics Maryland, for the last several years, has not been adhering to that policy to a great degree because we weren't able to really track it accurately and give people proper up-to-date feedback on things and such. We've got that resolved, and we are started with this past basketball season implementing this long-standing policy. So this isn't something new out of the blue. This is something that Maryland just hadn't been applying or adhering to, and we need to. It's a good thing. It improves the quality of the coaching. We get feedback from our athletes at Athlete Congress and other venues or other forums saying that they really want their coaches to continually get better. They want the best coaches possible, and certification and ongoing education opportunities for coaches are the one of the ways to do that. And if we could ask again if folks could mute your phones when you're not talking, that would be great. We have rolled out, again, starting with the basketball season that just passed, a requirement that all head coaches must have certification in their sport in order to bring teams, athletes, to the state championship for that particular sport. At some point in the future, we will include, or we will expand that to be all coaches. That's not going to happen within 2015. It may happen starting in 2016. But for this time, right now, we're talking only head coaches. A head coach for team sports, cheerleading, softball, whatever, each team has a head coach, and but that doesn't apply here. For aquatics, athletics, bocce, etc., each delegation has a minimum of one head coach. There's always one who's designated as the primary coach, but for that county. But if you have several different programs that are operating, each of those programs would be the head coach. It's the top coach, the person who's responsible for the operation of that program. So each of those coaches need to be certified in their particular sport. Many already are, and such. We will be sending out by the end of this week an updated list. We sent one out several months ago prior to the basketball season, and actually as we were cleaning things up, one of the things that we did find was and we're being very, let's say, liberal, because we know our records have not been great. So when you see this, if you are certain that you attended or had certification in the past, and it doesn't reflect that there, we will give us some information on when you attended a course or when you were certified, and we'll look at adjusting that for you. Certification is good for 3 years. 3 years is sort of the standard we have for all of our expirations. And again, we'll send an update this week with all the different opportunities. I'll show you some in a screen in just a moment for that. Basically, to renew your head coaching, if you have a previous Special Olympics certification for that sport, basically you can take either a general a course on general sports such as coaching Special Olympics athletes, or sport first aid, or something similar like that. Again, if you already have a previous certification in that sport, or you could take something that's specific to that sport, an aquatics course or something along those lines. If you've never had certification in that particular sport, if you've never been certified or taken a Special Olympics coaching course or whatever for aquatics, there's a two-step component. That is, you need to take either coaching Special Olympics athletes or principles of coaching, that's the general course, plus a sport-specific session. And again, as I noted before, this is going to apply to all coaches. You'll note down at the bottom, there is coming a requirement for that Special Olympics North America and Special Olympics International is requiring that all coaches go through a concussion training every 3 years. That's being phased in during this year. We're going to share with, we have an area directors meeting on April 18th, at which point we're going to share the process through which we're going to go through with that, and we'll roll that out to coaches shortly after that. That will not affect, while we certainly, once we roll out how the process will go, we encourage everybody to take advantage of it right away. And this is a free thing through CDC is what we're advocating for this. So, I mean, we encourage you to do it now and get it taken care of, but it will not affect anybody's eligibility to participate in summer games, unlike your head coach having to get their sports certification. So some things that are coming up, coaching Special Olympics athletes, which is a very good general course. We have one actually Wednesday night at Special Olympics headquarters. There's also a couple, there's one in Garrett College next week. We'll be offering additional ones throughout. We have several different online courses. Currently nothing for athletics, but Melissa, are you on the call that you could share your conversations with the aquatics coach at Towson?
Yeah, I'm here. I am waiting to get a couple dates back from her. It's either going to be a Saturday or Sunday at Towson University. And we're going to see if they can have a couple of their swimmers come and demonstrate the drills that they used during their clinics that they had earlier this year.
Okay. Great. We're also...
Where will that be?
It'll be at Towson.
Okay.
And she's still working on the date with that. So as soon as we know that, we will share it. That said, if in lining that up, we need to adjust that May 4th date, that deadline that I mentioned earlier on one of the early slides, we'll make an adjustment if that's necessary because we couldn't deliver the course. We're also looking to host Coaching Special Olympics Athletes, CSOA, for those of you who see the slides. It stands for Coaching Special Olympics Athletes, or sport training sessions for the basketball season. I think we did 3 or 4 trainings out in various areas. Again, Coaching Special Olympics Athletes will go out. We just asked for a minimum of 5 to 7 participants, and you can work with your regional sports director through your area director to see arranging that. We really want to try to get away from having everybody come on a specific weekend, and this is your only chance, and everybody has to come to Towson for this purpose for all the sports and such. We're trying to get out as much as we can. So if this is something you think you'd be interested in hosting, contact your regional sports director. We have their contact information in a slide in just a moment, and talk with them. In addition to the sessions that were on there, we also offer or accept ASEP, which is American Sports Education Program. They offer online training. It's very good. And one of their courses would be absolutely appropriate. The ones that are available for the spring session are listed here. We'll have all the contact information and how you can register for these when we send out the updated rosters for everybody later this week. One thing that you will note on there that Special Olympics Maryland does cover a subsidy to cover the cost, or help cover the cost of the sessions. In some cases, it covers the cost entirely, but that's done through reimbursement and after the course is completed. Please do feel free to take advantage of that, and if this is something that you're interested in. As Jack was mentioning, if you were on the call at the very, very beginning, we were talking, and Jack is in the course, or in the process of taking the aquatics course through ASEP. And Jack, is that have you had a chance to dive into it much yet?
Yeah, I got into it, and it's called Coaching Swimming Principles, and it's a $49 course. Mm-hmm. It's quite involved. The other one took about 3.5 hours to do, and this one probably is going to take at least 6 or 8 to go through and take the test and everything.
Yep, they're highly interactive, although there is a lot of reading as well. Very highly rated. In a previous life, I was very involved with online learning, and putting that professional experience here, I can tell you they do, for most of their courses, they do an excellent job. So, okay. The other thing, we will send out, that says athletics, that should say aquatics, sorry. The aquatics guide, basically that's just a reminder of all this information. But please do look for that. We're looking at splitting that out so that the more generic stuff will be in a separate publication, and this will be strictly on aquatics. We think that may be more useful for folks. Plus also my SOMD. Again, I mentioned there that the sports calendar is updated on there. We'll be loading additional materials on there for you to utilize. If you haven't already gone to SpecialOlympics.org, www.specialolympics.org, that's the Special Olympics International site. In their coaches section, and you can see a picture there of the aquatic sports component. There are excellent resources. In addition to the latest Special Olympics rules, and the rules were updated in 2014 prior to the 2014 USA Games. I don't think there was anything significant changed for aquatics. But you can get the latest rules there. They also have excellent coaching guides that have embedded video in there. It's again, putting my volunteer coach hat on for 2 other sports, I use the track and the soccer guides extensively during preparing for and during my sports seasons as a coach. Everything I've seen with the aquatics one it's just as valuable. Does an exceptional job of breaking down skills, of helping you analyze how to work with a particular athlete who's having a particular issue, say with a stroke or with a start or whatever the case may be. Just does an excellent job. Can't advocate those strongly enough. If you haven't gone there and looked at those guides, or looked at particularly at the aquatics guide, I strongly encourage you to do that when we get off the line here. It's an excellent tool. And then some other resources that are there. And then the last thing, we'll open up for questions, but did want to note here your regional sports directors, if you're not familiar with them. This was a bit of a change from their roles around last year's summer games. In the fall, Nick Anderson and Melissa Anger's roles changed to where they are almost exclusively focused on sports. And they're not, not doing as much with other aspects of area leadership or area programs. They're entirely focused on the sports programs, and they are your #1 contacts. Nick Anderson, beyond your area director, of course, use your area director as your initial contact, but beyond that, they are your primary contacts there. Nick covers Anne Arundel, Calvert, Cecil, Charles, Hartford, and St. Mary's counties, as well as the lower and upper shores. Melissa has Allegheny as Western Maryland and Central Maryland, which is Allegheny, Carroll, Frederick, Garrett, Howard, Montgomery, Prince George's, and Washington counties. And then Sam Hodep has a different title and has additional responsibilities, but he fulfills that role for Baltimore City and Baltimore County as the primary person there. A lot of that also is, quite honestly, the volume of emails and calls that have been coming in to me when I was sort of the main and sole person for this, just was unworkable in terms of being able to respond in a timely manner. So these folks are there to help you with that. Then just so that you know, and then we'll open up for questions, the rest of the deck also includes, for those of you who have been around for a while, the last year or so, we've been going through all the different forms and such. So down here, there's additional information on the athlete medicals and samples of those and so on. We're not going to walk through those. We think we've done that enough over the last year and a half that we can forego that for now and just make sure you have the information. So that said, we'll open it up for any questions that anybody might have. If you do have a question, please remember to unmute your phone, and then if you could mute it again to minimize the background noise. So any questions that we haven't addressed?
Mike?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you going to send out the information, like, on the, like Neil was talking about the events and the limitations and stuff like this? Is this going to be sent out to the coaches?
Yes, that's well. The slides have a bit of that. That's in the guide as well.
No, but I can't do the slides on my computer.
Sure. Nope. That'll all get emailed out to you. The slides will go out by tomorrow, and then the guide will go out no later than the end of next week. Again, we're in the process of splitting it so that it's really just the aquatic stuff is in the aquatics guide.
Right.
But also utilize the Special Olympics rules. I think it goes fairly well into detail on there as well.
Right. Okay.
Hi, this is Karen from Prince George's.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, just a quick question with regarding to the renewal. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and I know I went to something in Towson, but I don't remember what year it was. It was a couple years ago, or a couple years ago probably now. But so I'm trying to figure out the ASEP program or one of the other ones. I'm not sure. The one that they said that they were going to be having in aquatics in Towson. Is that going to be during the day or on a weekend or?
The one in Towson, they're looking at doing that on a Saturday or a Sunday. Yeah, and if you can send us when you think it was that you went through that, we can go back and try to recreate the information.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying.
4 years ago.
Huh?
It was 4 years ago because I did the kayak thing.
It was like a big thing. I know that it was at Towson. They had everybody come there.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, send that into if you're Prince George's County, send that into Melissa Anger, and we'll track that down and update your record. And if it was 4 years ago, you'd need to renew it anyway.
Right.
But if you've already got that and you have a number of choices, and the whole purpose behind giving you that breadth of whether you do a general or a sports specific is we really just want to see coaches improving their knowledge in some way, shape, or form for the sport or in ways to become a better coach on a regular basis. So so you could do a coaching Special Olympics athletes. You could do since you've already been certified once.
Because I know I did that, and I coached high school swimming for 17 years, and I've done. I've been a swimmer since I was 5. So I've had a lot of experience, and I've been doing Special Olympics now probably 20 years. So I'm just trying to figure out which one. I was going to probably do something with aquatics just to get some other ideas with it. But I just, I have a lot of experience with swimming myself and, working with the athletes. So I just wanted to make sure that the one at Towson would certify, would work if that's the one that's going to be on aquatics. I'd rather do something based on aquatics rather than just a general.
Yeah. Yes. Once she has that the date nailed down, that will definitely it will be on aquatics.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Mike, let me just make a statement on the coaching Special Olympics thing that I did online. I thought that was the best course that I've ever seen.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I highly recommend people do that course.
Yeah, and there's a live version of that as well, and we can put that on the road. We went through in the fall and trained, I think, between some staff folks and a number of volunteers out in the field. I think we trained somewhere close to 20 people on presenting that course. So if that's something that an area wants to host, we are certainly game to do that. Just ask that we have at least 5 to 7 folks attend. So thanks. Yeah, and it's nice that there's both the online and the live version. So thank you, Jack.
Mike, when we're done, can you spare a minute for me? This is Steve Doherty, Cecil County.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. So any other questions? Okay, well, great. Well, thank you for joining us this evening, taking a bit of time out of your evening.
Hello. I have a quick question on medicals.
Sure.
Are unified partners required to have medicals?
No, unified partners are considered volunteers, but they do need to have their volunteer application and have their background screening taken care of.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. So again, we'll thank you to everyone. We'll look forward to seeing you throughout the season. Hope everybody has if you are celebrating a holiday later this week, I hope you have a pleasant holiday, and we'll look forward to seeing you all, like I say, during the season. Thank you much. And Steve, if you want to